The old era of cybersecurity was loud. Attackers relied on noisy, destructive smash-and-grab ransomware attacks designed for immediate business interruption. Today, adversaries operate as a digital parasite. They have traded immediate disruption for long-term residence, prioritizing persistent access over localized damage. This graphic shows the top 10 most prevalent attack techniques, and at rank number 10, we see a 38% decline in data encryption attacks over the last year. T1486 is the formal MITRE designation for malware that encrypts data for impact. Instead of loud encryption routines, attackers prioritize invisibility. Process injection, the practice of hiding malicious code inside a legitimate software process, now dominates the threat landscape. The attacker's goal is maximizing dwell time. They intend to inhabit your systems completely unnoticed, slowly feeding on your organization's identity and permissions. Because threats now live silently inside the network, traditional point-in-time compliance audits, meaning manual security checks that only look at a system's status on one specific day, are useless for measuring actual security resilience. To defend against these pervasive attacks, organizations rely on the Center for Internet Security, or CIS, framework. CIS is a blueprint of globally recognized technical best practices. GRC professionals, those managing governance, risk, and compliance, face a specific dilemma. They must map endpoint telemetry to CIS implementation groups, which categorize organizations by risk profile from IG1 to IG3. But legacy antivirus and static sandboxes consistently fail to provide reliable data. Looking back at this graphic, we see virtualization and sandbox evasion surging to rank number 4. Modern malware is self-aware, analyzing geometry and human behavior to detect if it is running inside an analysis sandbox. If this malware detects it is being watched by security tools, it simply plays dead. It passes cleanly through automated gateways, only activating once it reaches a live production environment. The modern solution is continuous control monitoring. CCM is a strategy that automatically pulls real-time telemetry from endpoints and identity providers, mapping that live evidence directly to CIS safeguards. Bridging the gap between an auditor's static checklist and an engineer's operational reality requires abandoning legacy static tools. You must adopt continuous security validation to actively catch evasive behaviors. We use the Decider Curator matrix to map endpoint features directly to CIS controls and SOC 2 compliance requirements. First, the semantic SEP firewall maps to CIS Control 12. It requires a policy that defaults to denying inbound traffic, selectively allows outbound, and utilizes smart filters. The trade-off is clear. Default deny firewalls restrict lateral movement, but require precise whitelisting to avoid blocking business apps. Next, the antivirus engine and sonar map to CIS Control 10, utilizing a behavioral heuristic scanner to stop zero-day threats. Sonar operates by identifying and blocking suspicious application behavior in real time, monitoring system changes to stop attacks. In contrast, CrowdStrike satisfies CIS Control 10 differently, relying heavily on cloud-based machine learning models rather than localized, heavy heuristic scanning engines. The trade-off for Symantec's AVE and sonar engines is performance overhead. Deep scans cause high resource utilization and require extensive exception tuning for internal software to avoid false positives. While these foundational engines easily check the box for CIS Control 10, their operational cost is a heavy initial configuration burden placed squarely on the security engineering team. Adversaries bypass foundational engines using living-off-the-land attacks. They weaponize trusted, dual-use tools like PowerShell to blend in and evade detection. Symantec neutralizes this with adaptive protection and memory exploit mitigation. MEM is a feature that specifically targets and shuts down fileless attacks and memory corruption exploits. In our matrix, adaptive protection and MEM map directly to CIS Control 4, secure configuration, and CIS Control 10. The trade-off is administrative friction. Locking down dual-use tools reduces your attack surface, but requires close coordination with IT administrators who rely on PowerShell for their daily tasks. Endpoint defense also requires a host intrusion prevention system. HIPS monitors and blocks malicious network streams before they reach the file system. In our matrix, HIPS maps to CIS Control 9, email and web browser protections, blocking browser vulnerabilities and remote code execution. Stopping remote code execution provides incredible evidence for SOC 2 compliance. The trade-off is that HIPs can cause web latency and easily break legacy internal web applications. For absolute endpoint hardening, administrators deploy application and device control, or ADC, alongside system lockdown policies. ADC maps to CIS Control 2, software assets, and Control 3, data protection. It stops data leaks by blocking unauthorized hardware, like USB drives, and relies on strict allow lists for execution. These policies tie into host integrity, which acts as a digital bouncer, actively verifying patch health and firewall status before granting a device network access. This graphic highlights the most critical vulnerability identified in recent threat data: identity and credential theft, seen here at rank number 3. Once adversaries bypass the perimeter, they weaponize identity systems and administrative credentials to move silently and guarantee their persistence. Symantec counters this via its Active Directory security module, while CrowdStrike utilizes identity threat protection. Both systems actively monitor identity telemetry to catch credential harvesting. The ultimate trade-off here is user autonomy. Ironclad features like ADC and strict identity sensors provide maximum SOC 2 security, but they eliminate user independence, requiring a well-staffed IT help desk to process every access request. This chart shows an effort versus impact quadrant, answering the core dilemma: is the high input of policy tuning worth the outcome of automated compliance? This comprehensive strategy maps perfectly to highly regulated environments like finance, aiming for advanced CIS profiles. However, this approach is challenging for startups. Organizations without dedicated GRC engineers cannot afford the time required to tune strict allow listing policies. Securing an endpoint is a process of translating raw telemetry into mathematically defensible evidence. Organizations must transition from assuming protection to validating resilience. Defend the perimeter, but validate the interior. To bridge the gap between compliance mandates and active threat defense, reach out to WatchPost Security through the channels on screen.